Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After our adventures in the Marvel world last week with Marvel United, this week we're playing Bowling with Tentacles. Okay, we're actually playing Bowl-O-Rama championship bowling game by PLAAY Games, but it's going to feel like bowling with tentacles. Let me explain what's going on here, because there's a little bit of backstory behind this video and what I'm actually doing with this video. So back when I was doing Christmas in Arkham with Jester, and we were going through the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament, Jester thought that the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament was taking way too long to get the preliminaries out of the way and get to the main event. So so that kind of set me down a path of, okay, what are some other games that I might want to play with in terms of deciding the opponent for Christmas in Arkham and the Summer of Lovecraft. Because the thing of it is, I'm not warm to the idea of just picking an ancient one and saying, yeah, that's the one we're facing. I want there to be a little bit of story to it. Basically I want to use a game, basically I want to kind of leave it up to fate on which ancient one that I face during Christmas in Arkham and the Summer of Lovecraft. There were a few games I picked up with that purpose in mind of wanting to find the opponent for Christmas in Arkham and the Summer of Lovecraft. Dice Throne was one of those, and that was the first idea I latched onto was a Dice Throne tournament, but that's probably going to take even longer than the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament would have. And I'm probably going to try out Dice Throne Adventures as a potential dungeon crawl, since I've been on that dungeon crawl kick. Another game I picked up was Red, White, and Blue Racing. That's probably another game that I'm going to experiment with for that. That'll definitely be part of the wide world of sports, because I think that project is going to get added to the project rotation. But another easy game that I can probably set up for this is Bowl-O-Rama. So what I had to do with it is I actually had to have ChatGPT give me a hand with bolting on some Eldritch rules to it. Basically having the different ancient ones that are eligible for the tournament basically give each of them a special ability that's related to Bowl-O-Rama. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use what are called mythos tokens. So each ancient one that's eligible has a passive ability and an active ability that'll cost the mythos tokens. Each bowler has no mythos tokens to start with, and I'm going to use these 12mm dice to represent the mythos tokens. It's just going to be 1, 2, and 3. Those will be our mythos tokens. Each bowler can hold a maximum of 3, and per frame each bowler can gain 1. And a bowler gains 1 mythos token when any one of the following happens. They roll a strike, they convert a spare that began with a split, or a result that sends them to an unusual, rare, highlight, special events chart. Let's see if there's one of those in Bowl-O-Rama. I don't think so. And I'm not gonna count the Y or Z ball results on that chart unless something explicitly says that I should. Let's see. Let me make sure. Right, I do need the different spare charts. Quick play bowling. Not using tournament mode. Okay, so it looks like... Actually, what's this? U-balls, whenever... Okay, so there are U-ball charts. So if something sends us to the U-ball chart, then that'll count for mythos tokens as well. Doesn't look like I need any of these. Okay. Yep, we got that all figured out. Okay. So now I've got my, let's see. Okay, this has got the spare charts on the back. All right. Now that we've got that figured out, so once again, just to establish the parameters for the mythos tokens, if we get a strike, if a bowler gets a strike, a spare that starts from a split, and the way we'll be able to tell that is on the bowler card, and yes, I will point out that we're using the 175 average. If anything's got a negative on if anything's got a minus sign, that indicates it's starting from a split. So any spare picked up from there, or anything that sends us to the U-ball chart. So that's how they're going to gain the Mythos tokens. Anyway, let's go ahead and meet our Ancient Ones, and the first bowler that we're going to have is Azathoth, the Blind Idiot at the center. His passive ability is a Chaotic Roll. Once per frame, if your first ball knocks down 0, 1, or 2 pins, and there are results for that, you may immediately roll that first ball, but you have to keep it even if it's worse. And his active ability is Reality Collapse, which is going to cost a Mythos token. After you complete a frame with an open, no strike, no spare, you may spend 1 Mythos token to add +2 pins to that frame's total, up to a maximum of 9 pins for that frame. And I suspect by the time I get done here, Keith Avalon is probably going to look at this video and be like, what the hell did he do to my game? Anyway, hopefully you guys are going to enjoy a little bit of bowling with tentacles today. So, let's get our first ball for Azathoth in our first frame. So, we'll go through the first couple of balls nice and slow. The goal is to have the die land on this side of this dotted line, and then have it roll in here. Anywhere it stops in here, if it stops outside of this triangle, it'll be a normal ball result. If it stops on there, it'll be a great ball. If it goes off target or hits this DM screen for Star Wars Force and Destiny I put up, then it'll be a questionable ball. The idea is this will stop the D20 from going off the table. So, without any further ado, let's roll Azathoth's first frame. Okay, so see how it's stopping there? That means we go to the normal result and a 4. So normal result and a 4 means we've got a strike. So Azathoth already has a Mythos token. And the thing I don't like about the digital scorekeepers that I've found is I can't track the Ancient Ones and have it be scored at the same time. So I'm going to have to do the scoring manually. Anyway, here's frame 2 for Azathoth. Another strike. Let's get into the third frame. We're going to be scoring the first frame after this because strike +2. Or strike plus the next 2 rolls. Alright, that one's off target, so an 11 on a questionable ball is a 7-. So that means it's going to be starting from a split. So we actually should have 2 Mythos tokens. So we've got a 7 split, so the first frame is going to be worth 27. And now we've got to roll for this to start a split, to try to pick up a spare. Which that's a very questionable result as well. I'm actually going to re-roll that since I didn't even see it. I've got my dice tower in shot here. I'm actually going to put it like that. That way I don't have it roll behind again. The dice tower is here just in case I need to roll on a Y or a Z chart. So let's give that another try. Oop. I'm going to try to roll it from here. The angle's a little bit awkward, but it's a questionable 6 on a 7-. Oop. Questionable 6 is 1 pin, so Azathoth did not pick up that spare. So that will be, let's see, 27, 18 is 45, and 8 is 53. I'm not going to worry about spending a Mythos token here, because that's still a very respectable third frame. So let's go right into Azathoth's fourth frame. Another one that's off target, and a 1 actually is a 9-pin. Okay, so let's see what happens in Azathoth's in this second ball of the fourth frame. That's a 19 on a 9-pin and on a normal ball, and we're actually going to miss the spare. So we're not going to pick up the spare. 62 for Azathoth into frame number 5. Ideally, I'd want to roll it underhand, but the angle is a little bit awkward for me to be. Well, It's doable. The angle is a little bit more awkward than I would like, but I think I can manage it. So this is Azathoth's fifth frame. Way off target. And a 9. That's another 7 from a split. So I think this could potentially be a problem as well. Alright, that's off target. A 3 on a 7 questionable. That'll be another 2. So that'll bring Azathoth up to 71 in the fifth frame. Frame number 6 for Azathoth. Okay, another one that's way off target. I'm going to try to... Actually, I wonder if I can roll it from underneath the tripod. Actually, that's not bad. That's a great ball, 15. 9 pins for Azathoth. Actually, the angle isn't too bad like that. If I roll it way down... If I roll it way down under the tripod, I can kind of make it work. I just have to be careful of the... I just have to be careful of the cord that I've got to the power adapter that I'm using so I can stream with this camera. Alright, that's I'm going to call that off target 11. And that's actually going to not pick up the spare. So we're into the 7th frame for Azathoth. Off target 12. That's a questionable ball. That's another 7 with a split. Okay, so now we've got to try to pick up the spare. Alright, that's a questionable 2. 7. Questionable 2. And we only get 2 pins out of that. So that's an 89 for Azathoth going into the 8th frame. It's probably going to be a little bit easier if I roll it overhand like so. Alright, that's off target at 20 is going to be terrible. That'll be a U-ball result. So that will give Azathoth a 3rd Mythos token. Because we're going to the U-ball. And we're going to call this amateur level. So now's where we need the D66 that we're rolling. 10s, 1s. We'll be rolling these APA style. That's a 22. We've got a rare result. And a 26. Fight breaks out between bowler and choice of opponent. Both rattled. Both bowlers use questionable results on the next die balls. So who does a fight break out with? Who would Azathoth be likely to fight? I think we're going to have to roll for that randomly. So let's go... let's see, we've got 14 ancient ones. Actually, we'll use a I think we'll use a D20 for that. 1 through 13 starting at Cthulhu on my score sheet. 14 through 20 are rerolls. That's an 8. So we're going to be... So Azathoth and Aboth are going to start a fight starting over their first... over the next 2 balls for questionable. Okay. Alright, so that was a rare result, and I think we've got to roll that again. Whenever U-ball is indicated, consult the reading at right. Okay, so yeah, we've got to... Looks like we've got to roll that again. So Azathoth is using questionable here. That's a 7 on a questionable result, which is 7 pins. And another questionable 4 on a 7 is 2 pins. That'll bring Azathoth up to 98, and we're heading into his 9th frame. Alright, that's a normal 9. Normal 9 is 9 pins. Trying to pick up the spare. Alright, that's on target. That's normal ball 12. And Azathoth will pick up the spare. So 10 plus the next ball. That's a questionable 9. Is another 7 from a split going into the 10th frame. So 17 and 98's 115. And trying to pick up the spare. Questionable 15. That's not likely to pick up the spare. Actually, that's going to miss it altogether. So that'll be 122 for Azathoth. I'm a little concerned about how long this is taking to get through all of that. So that is it for Azathoth. Our next bowler coming up will be Cthulhu. His passive is Tides of Dread. If you bowl 2 or more strikes in a row, every strike after the first in that streak gives you +1 bonus pin to your overall game total. Track these bonus pins separately and add them while tabulating the final score. Frame scoring remains normal. Active is from the deep. When your first ball in a frame leaves 3 or more pins standing, you may spend 1 Mythos token before rolling the spare ball. If the spare ball knocks down at least half of the standing pins rounded up, treat the spare as fully converted. Otherwise, score normally. Okay, I'm going to take a quick drink and then we will see how Cthulhu gets on with his game. Alright, Cthulhu, let's see what you got. First frame. I'm still trying to find the best angle. I don't know if I want to roll it normally or if I want to go under the tripod. I feel like I want to have a little bit more room. I especially can't fit it here because I'm actually threading my arm through the tripod a little bit. I don't like that idea. I do need to be consistent. I want to keep this as fair as I can. But I'm very much experimenting. So let's see how Cthulhu gets on here. Alright, that actually did hit the line. And a 10 is an 8 plus. So that means they're grouped in a way that it's easier to pick up the spare. Alright, that one didn't get to the line, so that's actually going to be a foul, I believe. I'm just going to double check that. Let's see. So if it didn't even get to the line, then the bowler rolls again. Okay. So roll again. Alright, that's off target, but a 1 might still pick it up. What was that, an 8 plus? Yep, actually, yes. That will get picked up for Cthulhu. So Cthulhu will pick up the spare, but because it didn't start from a split, Cthulhu doesn't get a Mythos token. Frame number 2 for Cthulhu. Alright, that's just off target, and a 19 is a Y ball. So that brings us over to this chart, where a 14 is a 6 plus. So they're grouped again in such a way that it should be possible to pick up the spare. That'll be 16 for frame 1. Alright, that just barely got to the line. 6 on a 6 plus, and that's an A spare. 6 on a 6 plus, that will pick up the spare. But again, didn't result from a split, so Cthulhu doesn't get a Mythos token. Frame number 3. That's a 1 on a normal ball. That should be a strike, and it is. So now Cthulhu gets his first Mythos token. And we're into the 4th frame. We're going to the fourth frame. All right, on target with a 13. That's another 8 pins. Cthulhu is slightly off Azathoth's pace from earlier. Let's see how his fourth frame gets on. That is very off target. And a 1 on a questionable ball will still pick up the spare. Alright, so we're going to call that, I believe, on a spare light, on a situation like that. Let's see, rolls a 7, pick up the spare. And 3, okay, so 3 for the second ball. Okay, so scoring the strike now. 10, 8, and 2, so 20. That brings that frame to 56. And we can't score a frame 10 yet because we need to, or the fourth frame yet because we need to see how Cthulhu's fifth frame goes up. Alright, that's on target and a 9. That'll be another 9 pins for Cthulhu. So 19 is 75. And we'll see if Cthulhu can pick up the spare. Should be a fairly, well, I was going to say a fairly easy spare, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Off target 2 will still pick up the spare. So a questionable ball. And now we're into Cthulhu's sixth frame. On target 18. Uh-oh, that's a Y ball. A 33 is a 6 minus. Okay, so this is starting from a split. 16 is 91. Alright, so now we need to see if when your first frame... Let's see, so do we want to spend his Mythos token? I think we will spend the Mythos token. So we're activating from the deep. Since this first ball left 4 pins standing, if we knock down half the pins, then we consider the spare fully converted. So we are starting from a 6 minus, which is a questionable ball on a 3 for an ace spare. That'll be 2 pins, but since that's half the pins, we do get to treat the spare as being converted. So that'll give Cthulhu the Mythos token back because we converted a spare from a split. Seventh frame coming up. That's a normal ball 1. That'll be a strike. We haven't triggered Cthulhu's Tides of Dread yet, though. Because we need 2 or more strikes to trigger that, and we've only rolled 2 strikes total in this game. Let's see what happens in the 8th frame. All right, that's a questionable 5. That'll be an 8 split. That'll be an 8 split. So let's see how the spare goes for Cthulhu. All right, an off-target 4 on an 8 split is not likely to pick it up. That's 1 pin. So, actually I've got to come back here 101 because we score the spare. That's 1 pin, so another 19 is 120 for Cthulhu. We're into the 9th frame at this point for the namesake of the Mythos. Alright, that's a questionable 10. That's 7 from a split. And Cthulhu will spend the Mythos token to activate Tides from the Deep. Or from the Deep. Excuse me. Alright, that's an on-target 17. That was a 7 split. And the 17 is 1 pin, so we don't get the... spare. 10th and last frame. On target 16. That's the other thing I don't really like about having to roll under the tripod, is I'm jarring the camera constantly. 7 plus. I'm also trying to find the best spot to be able to roll the D20. Let's see if Cthulhu can pick up the spare, though, on a 7 plus. All right, a questionable 10 is going to be 2 pins. That'll end Cthulhu's round, bringing him up to 146. He's in the lead so far. I'm thinking the best angle is probably going to be just to roll it overhand like this. It's also a little bit weird because I'm also side on, essentially, rather than directly behind, which is where I would be if I was trying to roll under the tripod. So the angle is a little bit weird, but I'll figure it out. Actually, am I going to figure it out? Because I'm looking at the video, I'm looking at the stream time right now. I've got two bowlers done, and I've got another 12 to go, and that took me most of half an hour. I'm not sure I'm liking Bowl-O-Rama for this purpose. I don't know. Actually, I probably could turn this into a new Thanksgiving tradition, break it up into groups, but I don't know. I'm very hesitant around that idea. Let's give Haster a try, though, and see what I think of Haster. His passive is Spotlight Terror. In any game you designate as a TV, finals, or championship match, Haster's bowler starts the game with 1 Mythos token. Active, rewrite the frame. The cost of 1 Mythos token. After you score an open frame totaling 7 or fewer pins, you may spend 1 Mythos token to erase that frame and replay it from scratch. The new result stands. You can't redo that same frame again. So I probably would be wanting to do this in pencil as well. And that's also a reason at least if I use Bowl-O-Rama for this purpose, I'm going to be definitely ice cold to using any kind of digital scoring, unless there's a way I can erase it, especially with an active like that. But let's see what Haster gets up to. We are going to call this a championship match, so Haster is going to start with a Mythos token. Let's see what Haster gets up to for the first frame. Okay, that's also going to be a problem because given the overhand angle of it, I'm going to end up with a lot of questionable balls. There's another one on an 11. That's a 7 split. So yeah, I'm just seeing all kinds of problems here, which is making me ice cold to wanting to use this as the method of determining the opponent for Christmas in Arkham or the Summer of Lovecraft. A questionable 1 on a 7 split is 2 pins. Okay, let's go into the second frame. But I think more and more as I'm playing this and doing more stress testing with it, I don't think Bowl-O-Rama is the answer I want for this. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I've got rules for using red, white, and blue racing. I've even got some Arkham-themed, some Mythos-themed track packs. So we'll probably give that. I'll probably rush a session of red, white, and blue racing with some Mythos rules as well into the off season. Especially with the Summer of Lovecraft. Granted, it's only mid-February, and August is still 6 months away. But August has a way of rushing up on me, so I definitely want to rush red, white, and blue racing with these Mythos rules to the channel. But I'm rambling at this point. Let's bowl. A questionable 13 is a Y ball. And a 55 is a 5 split. All right, let's see if Haster can pick up the spare here. Actually, he's got to have at least a normal ball. Anything questionable, and he's not picking it up. Which, of course, that's questionable. And an 11 is going to be 2 pins. Is he going to erase the frame? He is not going to. No, actually, that was a pretty bad frame. We'll keep playing with it. Like I said, I'm starting to turn on the idea of using Bowl-O-Rama for this purpose. Let's see how the third frame goes. Questionable 16 is another Y ball. $12 is at least a 6+. Let's see if he can pick up the spare. A normal 18 doesn't seem likely to. Nope, that'll be 2 pins. Let's go into the fourth frame. A normal 4 is probably a strike, and it is. So Haster will get another Mythos token. It might also be an issue of picking a bowler with a fairly low average. But let's see what happens in the fifth frame. Questionable 19 is nothing good. That's actually a Z-ball result. Uh-oh. This might be one Haster's using a Mythos token on to erase. 35 is 4 pins. Let's see if he can pick up the spare on a 4-pin. The consolation for Haster here is at least it's a 4-pin that didn't start from a split. That's a normal 12. He might pick it up, but I'm not betting on it. Normal 12, he actually does pick it up. So that'll bring that fourth frame to 44, and Haster's got a spare going into the sixth frame. A normal 2, that'll be a strike. So that'll give Haster another Mythos token. Let's see, so 20 is 64. And now we've got a strike that we're starting from. That's a great ball. That's a 9. And that's going to be another strike for Haster. So he gets another... Actually, he's got his max of 3 now. Let's see if Haster can pick up another strike. That was a great roll. A normal 1 should be another strike, and it is. Man, did Haster need that. He's on fire here. Ninth frame. Wow, that was way off target. Questionable 8 is going to be 7 minus. I'm actually going to fish out a pencil because Haster probably is probably going to spend a Mythos token to replay this frame. Let's see, questionable 8 was a straight 7. Alright, that's a normal 15 on a 7 spare. Normal 15 is going to be 2 pins, and Haster is going to spend a Mythos token to erase that frame and replay it from scratch. A questionable 19, though, is going to be even worse. That's a Z-ball. The 24 is a 4+. And because now he's got to take this frame, he can score frame 7. So 24 and 94 is 118. So he's actually not too far off of Cthulhu's pace. Let's see, that's a 4+. Right here, okay. An off-target 7. Yeah, off-target 7. And an A is going to be 5 pins. So 19, 137. Going into the 10th and last frame. Actually, and 9 is 146. So Haster currently in the lead. Of the three that I think we're going to do here, because I'm realizing there are too many problems making me not want to use Bowl-O-Rama for this purpose. Let's get into the 10th and last frame, though. A normal 16 is a 7+. I think Haster might be replaying this frame, this 10th frame from scratch, but we'll see. That's an on-target 8 on a 7+. Normal 8 on a 7+, that will pick up the spare. So we'll see if Haster can do anything with the last frame. Alright, that's an on-target 19, so a Y-ball result. A 12 is a 6+. So Haster, 16 is going to be 162. And I think that's where I'm going to call it a stream. And the reason I'm going to call it here is because I've got a couple other things I want to get to before I start setting up for my next 2001 baseball season replay block. And since I've got the table mostly empty at this point, setup's going to take me very little time to do. So I want to get those unboxings done while I've got the table available to me. But I really do like Bowl-O-Rama as a game. For this specific purpose, I don't think it's going to work. Because the problem is it's taking me too long to get through it, and if I try to break this up into groups like I was doing with Fate of the Elder Gods before, then I run into the same issue of okay, Prelude is starting to take too long. Even if I break it up into groups of, say, I think I'd have to break it up into groups of, say, with 14 ancient ones, I'd probably have to go groups of 3. Actually, I have to go 2 groups of 3, 2 groups of 4, just to make it even somewhat viable. I mean, that's not inconceivable. That's not inconceivable. I'm just not sure if I'd want to do the winners group idea like I was doing before with the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament. So definitely taking some useful data out of this, where I'm not, like I said, I'm not really sure if this is going to work or not. I do also want to try Red, White, and Blue Racing for this purpose, and I've got a set of Eldritch rules for that as well. I may do a little bit of modifying with the tracks here. I've got to double check. I think GPT actually gave the rare result. I know there are some rare results in Red, White, and Blue Racing. I don't think any of the tracks take us to them though, so I may have to have GPT redo some of that and maybe give me some more tracks to work with. But I'm rambling at this point, so let's wrap this up. Like I said, I think I'm going to do some product unboxings here yet this morning before I set up the next block in my 2001 baseball season replay, which will be taking us to Enron Field in Houston, Texas, where the Chicago Cubs will be playing the Houston Astros. Julian Tavares will be up for the Cubs, and Roy Oswalt will be on the mound for the Astros. Wednesday, we're playing Super Boss Monster by Brotherwise Games. Saturday, Mystical Munchies will continue out of the Cooking with Deadpool cookbook as we're making the entree Breakfast Chimney. As for next week, we're going to be playing, we're going to have another brand new game on the channel, as I'll be doing some testing for something I might want to run in the off-season. We're going to be playing Marvel Zombies by Simon. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.